Oh, I can't believe I have to go into the forest by myself to get firewood for Brock. Here, firewood. Here, firewood. Hey, that reminds me of a joke. Pikachu, what do you call wood when it's scared? Petrified. Why do trees hate riddles? Because they always get stumped. Where do saplings go to learn? Elementary school. I could do this all day. But we better get to the podcast. Hey, I'm Veronica Taylor.
And I'm Rena Taylor.
And this is
The Trainer's Guide. Today's episode,
The School of Hard Knocks. Well, we are back for episode 9.
Welcome back, everybody. We are coming to you live from Michigan. We just finished up at Motor City Comic Con this weekend.
We had such a great time.
It was so much fun. And we actually got to meet some of you who are listening to the podcast. So that was very exciting.
Thank you. It's nice to have you all along on this journey.
I know. It's super fun. I want to start off by saying that what you heard, normally for the cold opens, we take lines from the show and kind of recite them verbatim. But what you got today, you guys, is a very special Veronica Taylor
dad
comedic
joke version
improv. So, yeah, take that, SNL.
Yeah, we love
writers
jokes.
Could never.
No. These, we found some good wood jokes.
Totally.
And we've got more, but we'll have to save them for in person.
Veronica make if a Veronica could make jokes? I was making a woodchuck joke. But
anyway.
It doesn't make sense if it doesn't rhyme. So, okay, moving on.
Into the episode.
To an episode, this is a good segue because this episode is filled with comedic timing. This is a very vaudevillian episode, I will say.
I think so too, yeah.
It's pretty hilarious, and we've got a lot of great, I don't know, it's just super fun. It's very goofy, and a lot of yelling and weird cuts and like
and the animation style changes all during it.
So it's very exciting. So let's kind of get into this. I will give us a quick summation so we can get into it. So the gang is still headed to Vermilion City, and on the way, they kind of take a pit stop to eat, and Ash is looking for firewood, as we have seen and heard from the opening of this episode. And he comes across these students in the fog, and one student is running on a treadmill being quizzed by these other students about Pokemon stats. And it turns out that they are students from Pokémon Tech, which is a school for, a boarding school for serious Pokemon trainers. And essentially, you can get into the Pokemon League without having to travel to earn badges if you graduate from this school. So It's very advanced. We come across Joe, who is the kid on the treadmill, and he's kind of being bullied by these kids, but also kind of being taught by them. It's like a weird jumble of things. And this is run and led by another student, Giselle, who is beautiful and talented and wonderful.
Right.
She's the ringleader. Anyway, so we kind of have this thing where our three main characters, Ash, Brock, and Misty, come into contact with these students, and it's a real battle of style. So it's two different styles going on the school route or the vagabond lifestyle.
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting time to point out that many people learn in different ways.
This is a good episode that brings that up, for sure.
So in general, we have some people are visual, some people are auditory, some learn through reading and writing, and some through doing or kinesthetic. So I think here we see them, really doing. Poor Joe is on the treadmill, having to run on it as they try to get him to recite or spit the facts about Pidgey. Yeah. So, but he can't. When he's under duress, he can't remember anything. But when he's calm and just standing around, he can tell you so much.
And yet he also says that he does that. Sometimes he pretends not to know everything, so he doesn't have to advance to the next level right away.
Which is complicated also.
Because it gets harder, and we find out that at Pokémon Tech, at this school, it's very difficult to get, as you level up in the school learning, so I think it's like 3 levels, and once you get to the intermediate or the expertise level, I think it is, it gets the classes and the training gets really difficult. And so there's one guy who's a student in the beginner's level with Joe, who's this old man.
Old in comparison.
Yeah. I
with
mean,
his
he's
glasses.
a full adult.
Right.
And he hasn't gotten past the first level. But everybody, you want to finish, so you just stay until you can complete the course.
And he's sitting alone under the tree reading a book.
Sad.
It's very sad.
It is so sad. I mean, this is a great thing about, like, what if you want to become a Pokemon trainer later in life? What if you get the call later in life? We don't meet any middle-aged trainers who are just beginning their journey.
No, not beginning. I mean, Brock's dad, he was he stopped his journey
when he was young.
Right.
And then he decided to become a parent.
Yes, apparently he did.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is an interesting thing we haven't really talked about. Ageism.
Well, I think, that's true too, but Pokemon. I think that it seemed to me that this other student, he started when he was young, but he just didn't get anywhere, which reminds me of another joke.
So too.
I stayed in 5th grade for 7 years. Why? I didn't want to pass my father. Because my dad didn't graduate. Well, anyway, it's similar to that.
That is a joke that a student could make at Pokémon Tech.
That's right.
If they were related to this man.
You're stuck there forever. But anyway, the other students, though, they really do a lot of, you could say bullying, but also they learn through pressure. And they learn under pressure for sure. Yeah, and then Giselle shows up, and she's quite mean, quite haughty.
She's very mean and very beautiful.
As she tells you how beautiful she is. And what does she say?
She goes, people call me a star, but I'm just Giselle. She's amazing.
They just love her.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't? She has a great, like when she throws her Pokeball, it reminds me of the Winx. When the Winx transform, that throwing, I feel like if I was 10 watching this, as I was when I was watching Winx Club, I would definitely try to mimic that move.
Yeah, how do her knee socks stay up?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Does she? Yeah, I know. How does she bend backwards so far when lifting her leg and throwing all at the same time?
She's balletic.
She's magical.
Yes.
And horrible. She's very mean. And I think that this is an interesting thing because on the one hand, yes, you can, you learn under pressure, and it's good that she's forcing people to be their best. But she's also really mean, and that could be another thing of Stockholm Syndrome, where you just kind of get to, you go, oh yeah, but she's helping me, and she's really my friend, which is what Joe says, even though, as Misty, I will say, points out, a true friend wouldn't turn their back on a friend when they need their help. And Joe needs Giselle's help. But instead of, being kind, she just knocks him down.
And she actually turns her back on him and stands there like that.
And that's a difference between, I think that kind of continues this stark contrast between Ash and his friends and then these kids at the school, is that they are all about teamwork, and Ash even considers Pikachu a friend, not just a Pokemon. And I think that kind of friendship is, and listening and caring, even though, you might get into fights or whatever, that's a very different approach than Giselle, who just kind of leads by example, and her example is kind of being mean to people.
Or showing off.
Right.
Also.
Yeah, and just kind of saying, oh, you better be better than that if you're gonna be at this school or be in my group, which is very encouraging to some, but I think it's an interesting contrast.
We have some different levels here, too, because at the school, Misty tells us that this school is for millionaires' kids, so you know the tuition is pretty high. And then Joe says, I have to stay here because my parents have worked so hard and basically put all their money into this so that I could learn and advance. So we never talk about that, at least so far in these first 9 episodes, about the different levels and backgrounds that these trainers come from. And so here you see he feels the stress that he has to live up to his parents' desires or everything that they've put into it. So that's a lot of pressure for poor little Joe.
I know. That's very true.
And then you also have, on top of that, Ash, we see him in this, how he really does stick up for anybody.
Yeah.
How even Misty really does stick up for Joe and for what they find to be right.
Yeah. And I think that that's something, especially hearing your Poke wrap-up stories and meeting people while we're on the road. I think it's such an amazing, I can totally see how watching this show as a kid and as an adult, frankly, you can really identify with these characters and see them as your family and your friends. Because, I mean, Ash, without knowing any context clues for the situation, and I will say that sometimes that gets him in trouble, but he sees Joe in the beginning getting kind of bullied and made fun of by these other students. And rather than, watching the situation and finding out what's going on or trying to kind of wait it out to see what happens, he and Pikachu just run right up to them, to the group, and say, hey, cut it out. Like, you can't treat people like this. And that's an amazing thing. And he really sticks up for people without ever, asking any questions, without trying to figure out what's going on. He just stands up for what he believes in.
Right.
And what he believes in is treating people with respect,
equality,
with dignity, dignity, hard thing to say. But he really believes in that. And I think that that's something that, as people, we can all strive to do that. You do have to think, and you should always be thinking about how your actions affect others. But sometimes it's good to just jump into a situation and stand up for what you believe in. Sometimes asking questions or clarifying things, sometimes by the time you understand what's going on, it's too late to make a change or, help protect somebody.
Well, you know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
So you do have to make sure that people are being treated equally and fairly.
Yeah.
And you can usually see when that's not happening. But you have to be brave enough to stand up. And that's one thing that we do learn from Ash.
Right.
That he is brave. He's compulsive, but he's brave.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes him a good role model.
Totally.
For sure.
Now, Giselle, on the other hand, she is a role model in her own right because compared to Ash and his friends who are just kind of on the road, learning as they go, doing things on the fly, Pokémon Tech is all about stats. And they train and they learn how to become better trainers by statistics and not really by experience like Ash and his friends do. And so it's an interesting comparison because Giselle knows all these things about Pokemon. I mean, I've learned so much in this one episode about Pikachu becomes Raichu at level blah, blah, blah. And then it only does electric type and electric fighting and, all of this stuff. And we get a lot of information all at once, I will say, in this one episode.
I think Pikachu becomes Raichu at level 25. And interestingly, Pikachu is number 25 in the lineup.
How did you know that? How did you know that off the top of your
I guess
dome?
I kind of know a lot of things. Do you see these badges?
Oh my gosh.
I'm wearing them right now.
You are a Pokemon master. This is amazing.
It just struck me.
I think you're right.
Yeah. But
wow. Anyway, so they learned so much based off of statistics. And what we find, because Ash ends up battling Giselle, we find that, statistics aren't always, you can't just base and learn, everything based off of that. You've got to learn something from experience.
Isn't that kind of like teaching to the test, though, in school?
Exactly.
Where you're learning just the answers that you need.
Right.
And you can answer the question, but you don't always know how to apply it.
Right.
And that's where
You've got to have a balance.
Yeah, and being on the road, you're constantly learning how to apply it, but sometimes you don't know why.
Right. And you've got to have both. But it is an interesting thing of like, kids, do you want to go to school or do you want to go travel in the open road? You've got to pick. This
Which is
episode
what they
is
said.
causing people to pick.
Yeah.
And at the end, lo and behold, our little friend Joe decides to go home and go on his own journey like Ash. So he decides to leave school and hit the open road.
But they said you can't learn everything in school.
Yeah.
Which is true.
And Giselle learns that. She gets taken down a peg. Mm-hmm. And I think by the end, she's better for it.
But you do still need school, but you also need the open road.
Right.
The same thing, I believe, is that you do need school, you need to study, but you also need time for your imagination and you need time to let it all sink in so that you can figure out how to apply it in your own way.
Right. Exactly. And I guess you know that school isn't everything because Team Rocket, apparently we learn in this episode, they were students at Pokémon Tech. And they got the lowest score in the history of the school
they said,
on the test.
At least you were the top of the bottom.
Right. So we find out that they went to the school. They did not do well there. And they turned to a life of crime. So, you've got to do your best, but you've got to, I don't know what that tells you.
You need to apply yourself for sure.
In a positive way,
and
maybe.
You probably should surround yourself with positive people.
That's true.
Who can help support you.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, that's the thing is what is positive because they've surrounded themselves with people and Pokemon who support them in their endeavors. I mean, Meowth.
You mean Team Rocket?
Yeah, Meowth is supportive. Jesse and James are supportive of each other. So you could say that they've surrounded themselves with people. They're all like-minded.
Yes, I guess you're true.
Headed towards the same cause.
Well, except
even though it's
that
not
it's not the right cause. Yeah. But they are challenging, and that's what makes the story so great.
That's true. And what I want to say, again, this is another thing. If we're keeping tally for the amount of screen time that Team Rocket gets and what they do with the screen time that they have. In this episode, we have a poem about them getting the lowest marks at the school. And then the next scene is them hopping into the school saying, okay, you guys, like, we're here to battle. And then all the students from Pokémon Tech throw their Pokeballs at them. And they say, we're ready to battle. And instead of any Pokemon coming out, the balls just hit them.
Yes.
And they hit them so hard that they go over the fence of the school and
run away.
Yeah. They blast off. That's it. That's all they do in this episode. Icons. I mean, it's iconic. Yeah. What are they doing? It's amazing.
They're just thrown in for comic relief.
I'm so impressed by their resilience.
Yeah, I know. And they'll be back.
Seriously. I mean, they didn't do anything.
No. But also for that, so that was short-lived. And so also was Brock setting up the table and preparing to cook, which sets up the whole episode for why Ash drifts off to look for firewood and comes upon poor Joe in the thralls of education. Mm-hmm. So I loved that he pulls out of his backpack, kind of Mary Poppins style, this table and plates and silverware and his official Pokemon tea set and everything but the food.
And I love that he has Cerulean City water and he's got sparkling water from Mount Moon, but he's got two different types of water from both places that they visited. So, he's like a great tourist because he's just getting local items from these places that they visit.
Local coffee.
And then he's saying, local coffee, which for Ash and Misty, they're too young to enjoy.
Hilarious.
But it's very good, which is so funny because he's not that much older than they are, but he's an old soul. And then he is going to make them French crepes.
And he dips into a French accent.
Exactly.
Everything
and
is so wonderful.
And yet he can't make it because there's no firewood. I just find it so funny that in these episodes, Misty is obsessed with romance.
That's true.
She is obsessed. Like, everything that they do is so romantic to her. Oh, crepes, anything French, that's so romantic.
With her heart eyes.
Yes.
And then as soon as Giselle comes out, all the boys are gaga over her.
Yes, that's true.
So there's all like it's like love, but through someone else's eyes.
Yeah.
What you think love would be like.
Yeah, because even like she wants to go to Vermilion City to look at the yachts because they're so romantic.
Yeah.
I just love that she loves love.
Yeah. And they have that quick picture of her in a Paris cafe,
Yes.
sitting there at a table.
We're going to have to, on our social medias, input some of the clips from this episode so you can see it. So make sure you're following Trainer's Guide Pod on all your social platforms.
Yeah, because the animation style is so great with that sketchy
It's
bits
so
in the beginning.
unique for this episode. And I think it, if you're not watching along with us, you at least have to see what we're talking about because it's worth it.
Some of the fun. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it was a great episode.
It was a great episode.
There wasn't a ton that happened, but a lot happened in terms of how our characters developed.
Totally.
Both the kids in the school and our
I would
crew.
say there was more growth from Giselle and her friends than there was from Ash and his friends. But I think that that's the point, is that they're going, you teach me, I teach you.
It. Yeah.
Pokémon.
Yes. But we are learning. You learn about yourself by watching what they do. And then you can say, gosh, I hope I never turn out like that. Or maybe I should be kinder to someone at school or help them learn or help them memorize this. Or
Exactly. It helps. Sometimes helping others helps you to reinforce your values.
True.
And I think that this is a good example of that, where in this case, I think we can all be a little kinder to ourselves and to others. Mm-hmm. And this is a good reminder of that. And you can see from both perspectives, from Ash's perspective for standing up against that kind of behavior, and from, in this case, the beautiful, gorgeous Giselle's perspective, because she has to learn that. And I think, so sometimes, seeing other people's growth can actually help your growth.
And I also remember all the times that I helped with your homework, whether you wanted me to help you study or not. I learned a lot then, too. And we found really fun ways to memorize things.
Totally.
And all of that. So that's a great example, because ultimately, none of us can ever stop learning.
Right.
And this is a wide turn from the episode. But really, even that guy sitting under the tree studying still, we all are always going to be in, quote, school.
That's true.
Whether we're in the school of hard knocks out on the road, or we're in actual physical school trying to learn and get through it. We all have to help each other and find the most creative ways to learn and keep learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think this is a good time for the Poke Wrap Up,
where we hear from you, the Pokemon community.
We asked you to send in your favorite Pokemon memories, stories, and inspirations.
And here are a few of this week's.
First up, we have Susan from Houston, Texas. I began watching Pokemon, the show, when I was 8 years old. I didn't have a lot of friends as I was an only child. I lived in a world of my own through books, movies, music, and anime. In order to combat the loneliness, I started watching Pokemon. What I really loved about it was the special friendship between Ash, Misty, and Brock, and the trainers they came across, and the beautiful Pokemon that they all love so much. It then became a comfort show where I felt at home and that I could watch over and over. The show teaches you to love one another and to care about each other in order to make this world a better place.
Hi there, this is Anthony from California, and I wanted to express my appreciation to Veronica literally voicing my childhood. Pokemon has impacted me in a way no other franchise has ever done, but I don't think it would have happened if it weren't for those Saturday mornings in front of the TV, watching this aspiring Pokemon master and his Pikachu go on adventures, determined to be the best. I don't think I would be the artist I am and have the friends I've made if it weren't for the Pokemon we love to share and talk about. So I just wanted to thank you for shaping the person I am today, and thank Pokemon, and especially Ash Ketchum, to be the best like no one ever was.
Hi, my name's Chris, and I'm from California, and one of the things I love about the Pokemon series is the relationships that I've built over the years because of it, and not only that, but the just shared values across the community of being mindful and positive and empathetic towards people. And one such example that really struck me recently was I just recently got back into collecting the cards for the first time since I was a kid, and I've been ordering these cards online, and one card was probably 5 cents, and it was of a Pokemon that really meant a lot to me, and the person packaged it really nicely. They left a note just thanking me for my business, and little did they know, but the Pokemon that I had ordered was on my team back during Pokemon X and Y when it came out, and I was homeless during that time period, and that game was the only thing that I had. Then I went to the midnight release, and the fans were just so joyous and fun, and I really felt like I had a home within the Pokemon community when I really didn't have anything else. So I just want to thank you guys and express my appreciation for not only your involvement in the series, but also for being fans along with us.
A very special thanks to Susan, Anthony, and Chris for sharing their stories with us this week. But we want to hear from all of you.
Email us a short recording or write to us at trainersguidepod@gmail.com.
And try to keep it short. We know that's difficult, maybe 30 seconds or so. We don't want to have to edit.
Oh, and please include your first name and where you're from.
Well, that about wraps up today's episode of
The Trainer's Guide.
And, as they say, to be continued. We hope that you continue to join us on this journey that is The Trainer's Guide.
As you know, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you're listening now.
And if you subscribe, comment, and rate the podcast, it helps others find the show and keeps us on the air.
Thank you so much in advance for your generosity and all of your amazing support.
Trainer's Guide is a production of Boom Integrated.
We are co-executive producing this along with
the amazing Adrian Glover
and the incomparable Robin Lai. I'm your host, Veronica Taylor.
And I'm your host, Rena Taylor.
And this has been The Trainer's Guide. We'll see you out there on the road.